Welcome one and welcome all. We're live this evening on BerryFlow Upstream number 89. Tonight we're here with editor-in-chief of BlackBerry, Blaze. How you doing tonight, man?
Not too bad. Yourself?
We're rocking and rolling, ready to go. We're also here with Alex Bass of Cyberbytes Inc. I thought you were rocking a Cyberbytes shirt there, Alex, but it's
No,
not.
I gotta get some made. We gotta use the same people that you use locally, because those are nice shirts. I'd have to deal with something like that.
Local is the way to go, man.
Yeah.
I was out earlier today and I got a nice compliment on my shirt, and the hostess went on this 5-minute tangent about how cool the shirt was and the different different shirt sizes that the company makes and different designs, and I was like, okay, well, can you go so I can eat? I'm trying to enjoy my lunch here, and you're the host. Just sit me down and go on, right? But yeah, panda riding a giraffe, McBrucey. That's what it is. With the solo cup, they both got shades. Basically, this is my spirit kind of embodied, if you didn't know. But we have a lot of stuff to talk about, actually. On one of those on weeks for us, we've got a lot, post Mobile World Congress 2016 relative to BlackBerry. Some interesting stuff on the QNX side, the software side. Blaze, in our last podcast on the BlackBerry site, put out a tweet from Marty Beard basically saying what they were going to cover, right? IoT, secure messaging, and the enterprise stuff. And that is exactly what we got, right? So no hardware announcements, no even OS announcements in terms of a Priv update or even a BlackBerry 10 update. So I'm expecting some things to kind of come on their own. We see Apple kind of setting their own calendar for their own events and things like that. You think it's just better for BlackBerry to kind of have their own forum to discuss and talk about those things, be it a press release or a blog post or whatever it might be? Or do you think it's beneficial for them to kind of pull out all the stops at an event like Mobile World Congress?
I don't know. I'd actually like to see them start pulling out all the stops and announcing stuff at big events once again, but I don't know. I just don't think that we're at that point right now. So, we're going to continue to basically see them announce whatever it is that they have to announce, essentially on their own blogs and to their own people and through their own social channels. But like I said, I would totally love to see them blow the doors off of some other event, but it's just not going to happen for a while.
It's really at a point where right now is the cost benefit there for them? What do they actually get out of it in terms of what they're spending to make those kinds of events happen? I'm sure booking, stage time and all that, costs money, costs more scheduling and planning and all that, and for what they're doing, they kind of are behind the scenes now, right, with their whole software focus. Alex, what are some of your thoughts? I mean, I'm with Blaze. I'd love them to pull out all the stops, but do you think it's kind of smarter to do this right now until they have, more to kind of talk about?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. I mean, they could go out and they could just talk some more about IoT, but we've had the discussion before that IoT isn't even at a place yet for it to really be discussed in where they fit in. Like what Marty Beard was talking about, once there's the tens and hundreds of millions of different, or tens of billions of endpoints, that's when BlackBerry can start talking about IoT and how what they're doing is useful. So I feel like right now it's just they don't have that much to talk about that really needs the stage. They don't have anything. So I don't really see why they should necessarily be going to some big event and trying to make a big deal over it, or I don't know. I think it's fine, but I would like to see it, obviously.
They're there, they're showing off Priv, It's not like it was a silent event totally, but it was definitely a focused kind of effort from them, keeping things kind of low profile and getting out there, getting the word to the people who are worth hearing it, as opposed to just letting everybody know, where it seems like a lot of times when we get these types of news in big events, a lot of it gets misconstrued, and the media just kind of spins this yarn that is a little bit nonsensical, in my opinion. We had Leap, and everyone hated the Leap, right, as soon as it came out. But then, the people who it was geared for actually really appreciated the Leap, after it was announced. And I think there's a lot of media spin right now, so for them to kind of control that and kind of have their own message and control that a lot better, they have to, start managing the reactions of people at these events, right? So if you can focus on and really drive the perception that, okay, this is a software, this is an enterprise-based company, that's where our value is. When a device announcement or an OS announcement comes, it kind of backs up what the primary focus is instead of kind of misconstruing things, right? If I come to the Mobile World Congress and I put out a bunch of device stuff, it doesn't tell my customers, my real core customers, what I'm actually doing, right? So maybe this is just more focused for them at this point.
Yeah, and see, part of the problem with that is that, you know, the majority of people out there still see BlackBerry as a smartphone manufacturer,
Yes.
and they don't look at anything else. Like, that's it. That's where it ends for a lot of people, right? But there's so much more going on behind the scenes, and basically, as we've seen with the announcements coming out of Mobile World Congress, they have a lot of their QNX stuff. They have the cross-platform software strategy that they're essentially working on. They're getting closer with all of their IoT stuff. Like Marty Beer basically, you know, summed it up in that interview that they did with Mobile World Congress Daily. You know, there was literally only one mention of devices essentially in that whole interview, and the rest of it was all software, IoT, you know, cross-platform software strategy, and everything else that was going along with it. And you know, BlackBerry's not ready to announce any devices, and you know, the people who concentrate on hardware they're basically going to have to get over that and realize that BlackBerry is not the same as what it was once before. So, you know, and really that goes to like everybody as well, because there was, you know, if you look at the forums and you look on Twitter and everywhere else, there were still people that were expecting, you know, the hardware to still be a big key factor during Mobile World Congress, when that just simply wasn't the case at all.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Do you think that they're like not going to go forward with that device that was kind of like shown off so long ago? Because there's like one picture that was leaked of it, and then it's just been gone for months, and we haven't heard anything. So, do you think they just kind of decided, you know, let's just back out hardware and really not? I don't know. It seems like they're definitely focusing on software, but
I don't think that they decided, you know, one particular like, okay, we're essentially done with hardware. We're not going to tell anyone at this point, but we're done with it. Like, I don't think that that's what they decided. You know, that device may essentially appear later down the road. It may, you know, come in slightly different form as well. Personally, I believe BlackBerry, you know, as terrible as it sounds, I don't mean it to sound terrible, but I really genuinely don't think that BlackBerry knows as of yet what their next move is in the hardware space, simply because they're sitting back and they're looking at the numbers, they're looking at Priv, they're looking at everything else that is happening, and you know, from a rollout perspective, I don't think that they genuinely have any hardcore set plans as of yet to be able to say, yes, this is what we're doing next. Like, they don't have a hardware roadmap that is truly defined as of yet. I'm sure I've said it, you know, probably 2 or 3 times now, but yeah, they're just sitting back and they're seeing how things essentially play out. You know, does that mean that the Vienna is going to be released at some point? I don't know. Maybe they may go ahead and change their minds. BlackBerry, when it comes to their hardware, there is essentially a lot of devices that have always been in play within their hardware infrastructure, like, you know, basically like demo devices, test devices, all of that stuff has always been in play. Like, it's not exactly the first time that we've seen BlackBerry pull back on hardware and essentially go ahead and cancel a device either. What was it that I can't even remember the name of it now, but it was kind of like what the hell was the name of that device? It escapes my mind. But anyways, they canceled off a bunch of devices previously shortly after BlackBerry 10 was released. So it's not the first time that they've gone ahead and changed their, you know, hardware plans. So I think basically at this point they're just sitting down, they're looking at the numbers, they're seeing how things roll out, and they're looking at the software side and, you know, what people's perceptions are and where they should go to next. But again, I don't think that they have any hardcore plans laid out for the actual hardware division, which is, you know, why we're seeing this sort of lull in basically hardware devices.
There's another point to be made that comes right off of that understanding, and it's that they built up an entire carrier distribution network and partnership and alliance to really push BlackBerry 10, right, and get it out there. And as BlackBerry 10 kind of faltered in the market, some of those channels and distribution channel, they fell short and they, eroded. So that connection between them and their partners has to be now rebuilt. The distribution channels have to now be reset with a new OS, with a new hardware focus, and all that's going to take time, right? We're still waiting on Verizon. We're still waiting on Sprint, if that, is ever to come to pass. So, we're definitely in a period where they're building to get those distribution channels in place. So again, Priv is kind of that spearhead here, but as that device comes through and the channels are recreated, the partnerships are reformed, then they can go and potentially bring another device, right? But it's going to take time to do all of that, especially on a global scale and at the the size and focus that BlackBerry is right now. So I totally agree. At this point, we are definitely in a waiting game. If I were to launch a Vienna type device, right, a mid-range QWERTY, right, I would assume after summer, pre-holiday, at a good price makes more sense because the hardware sales would fold into your end of fiscal quarter by the your next year. So if you do it too early, right, the momentum might die off, and then it's like, what's the point, right? And that's something they probably learned from launching the Leap when they did, at Mobile World Congress and having its availability a little bit too early into the season. But again, a lot to be said about whether it's even a viable opportunity for them to do something like that. We talked, Blaze was mentioning a little bit earlier that there's a lot going on in the background, and really that's where BlackBerry is playing right now. The QNX system unveiling a new Bluetooth solution for embedded system developers is really big in terms of QNX leveraging itself into a broader scope of support for connected devices, right? But again, that market is so nascent at this point. QNX is literally right there in lockstep with a lot of these OEMs building out different kinds of solutions and helping them along the way. So you can kind of see the platforms coming together, right? We saw the wireless framework come from QNX a couple months ago. We're seeing a Bluetooth framework. So it's kind of this prepackaged platform for IoT, but again, the market's not even there for it. So really, it's a slow build as they build up some of those things. But they're still gaining new partners. We saw a new traffic system chose QNX for traffic and light controllers, right? Something real-time, mission-critical. You don't want car crashes, things like that. So it definitely seems that software focus is kind of expanding, and they're still working to establish new partnerships there. What do you guys think about specifically, QNX being used in that, like a traffic system based thing for lights and different things like that in city infrastructure? Does that kind of lay precedence for more opportunities like that to happen as they bring on new partners? Because this isn't something new to BlackBerry, right, or QNX. It's something they've done before, but continuing to do it can potentially be good to bring on even more customers.
Yeah, I think anytime that they have accredited companies basically signed on to their solution, that they can go ahead and offer to others who may essentially be in the exact same category or similar categories, then it's totally beneficial, because they sort of become the experts at those situations at that point in time. Like, who's to say that another traffic system company isn't gonna come and be like, oh well, Swarco signed up with them, so their solution seems to be working perfectly fine for them, so we might as well go ahead and adopt it for our solution. You look, anytime any business is looking for, collaboration or anything like that, they always start off with looking to go ahead and find the best individuals that can, bring out the best situations and systems within themselves. So, it becomes, well, they're covering this solution, we can bring them into the fold because it's already a proven solution, right?
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that it really can show kind of the scope of what BlackBerry and QNX are capable of doing, as that whole market kind of evolves and grows, where the interconnectedness of these devices and these pieces of infrastructure are automobiles and things like that. It really shows that, QNX is not only in the car, right, but it's also around the car, right? It's talking to the device and all these other aspects too. So it really kind of paints a picture, but the canvas is so wide right now that it's really hard to see that big picture. So something they definitely got to work on. And as we talked about, BlackBerry COO Marty Beard did talk about that cross-platform strategy. They talked about IoT, and BlackBerry and ShareCare even launched a BBM channel. Alex,
Oh boy.
what do you feel about launching a BBM channel? Like today, it just seems like a weird time to be going for a BBM channel, right? So what are some of your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, I think I was kind of looking into it, and I guess ShareCare is actually Dr. Oz is a big stakeholder or partner of the company, and I think this was just simply a publicity thing. They'd mentioned that they just incorporated some of BBM tech or BlackBerry technology into the official ShareCare experience app that they have. So I think this is just kind of a natural progression of this, where it's like, hey, we'll feature you on BBM channels for the heck of it, and it's like maybe it's just like to reciprocate the thanks, or maybe there was money exchange to get to however it is. I think BlackBerry, they just see this is this platform that at least they have some control over and they can do something with. I don't think it's going to really make a big difference. They have maybe 9,000 people following the channel now, and I just checked a little bit earlier, and I read some of the posts in the channel, and it was just talking about health and kind of technology and things, and using ShareCare apps and things to like be able to reduce stress and various things. It doesn't seem like it's something that's a big deal. It's just like I feel like this is what BlackBerry just felt like they can do to try and help the cause, or like to reciprocate. Thank you for supporting us. Here's our support to you, and it's kind of
going to drive downloads of the ShareCare apps.
Exactly.
Yep. Because I know I downloaded that voice analyzer app.
How'd it work? I was thinking about it. I finally decided no. I watched a few videos on it.
It was alright. It actually it sort of like it analyzes your voice and it pegs it down to whether or not you're frustrated or you're angry.
I should use it right now.
It's like it really is kind of cool that I could actually just go through and try and determine exactly how you're emotionally feeling right now.
I'll get it.
So if that was all they wanted to accomplish, they definitely got that out of me.
Yeah.
They definitely are working to kind of expand on those partnerships. It's something they got to do. And I think on the enterprise side of things, they're doing a really smart job of bolstering the solution, but also trying to integrate and connect it, right? So we saw Centrify partnering with BlackBerry to provide that secure access on the Good Dynamics secure platform. Again, leveraging their new acquisition with new partners. Again, building on what their kind of core foundation is. So stuff like that is so beneficial for them because it puts their product in front of others, right? And it just widens the net of exposure for them, while also, bringing in more integrations and more possibilities for collaboration. So again, really cool to see ShareCare, BBM, BlackBerry, as well as Centrify partnering on the good side of that equation. And literally to back that up even further, we're seeing BlackBerry using Microsoft's Azure to offer secure enterprise solutions and services as well. So really cool, again, that they're leveraging, putting their BES and putting their software solutions out in front of others and kind of branching out. And that's something that is literally totally converse from how BlackBerry was in the past, right? They were kind of a siloed, walled garden, kind of like Apple, and now they've literally just torn it apart and done the exact opposite, and now we're headed everywhere.
They're everywhere now. And like you said, it is totally something different from what BlackBerry used to do. Like if you wanted their services, you of course had to go directly to them, whereas opposed to now, I can basically set up a demo BES on the Azure servers, and I don't even have to totally involve BlackBerry or anything like that. I can just go set up a demo just on the Azure website. So that's interesting. Just in regards to those devices that were previously canceled, I managed to actually remember them. They were the Cappuccino and
the Kopi, yeah. Cafe series.
Yeah, so there is a precedent there for devices to actually reach the manufacturing stage and eventually be dropped. So.
Definitely. I mean, we saw Z30s that were branded for AT&T, but did they ever launch it? No. I mean, it's one of those things where you test, you see the channels. Is it going to go? Is it going to go? And then you make a decision. I think it's just too early for a device like that. Priv hasn't even kind of come to terms with itself yet, right? So BlackBerry doesn't know. Is Priv successful? We don't know. We don't have it out with all of our customers yet.
No. There's still lots of hype to be made with Priv too.
Absolutely.
Marshmallow upgrade and everything. So.
And that's the time to do it, right? If they're going to do any kind of marketing to push Priv, it's when it has Marshmallow, when it's at all the carriers, when the price is kind of settled to where it's going to be. That's when you go ham. You've ironed out all the supply chain manufacturing issues that may or may not have been there. You really get everything streamlined and you start going. And I think there's a business for them. John Chen mentioned it's an underserved side of the market, and I'd agree. I think a lot of people agree that the QWERTY side of that whole enterprise space is really underserved, and especially when you're trying to upsell to some of your existing customers, right? Having Priv just saves you from having to sell your competitors' devices, right?
Yep.
I think long term there's a real benefit for them to kind of, I don't want to say get out of the hardware game, but license their IP to others so that they can make that revenue, but a lot of the risk and the cost is now offset to others. Because if you look at a Samsung S7, right, and you look at a Priv, what is the difference? It's the slider mechanism and it's the keyboard, right? And obviously some of the OS refinements, of course with the security of their version of Android, but a lot of that potentially could be replicated with the Samsung and the Knox and all that other good stuff, right? Adding on the solution they've already created may not be so big a deal, but there's potential to license 3 or 4 facets of what BlackBerry has kind of spearheaded here with Priv to others in the OEM space. You talk about how do you grow BBM? They licensed it and put it on other devices preloaded, like some of those LGs back when BBM was first rolling out. So I think they, again, need to work with partners and get the distribution up to really start driving some of these services. And we were talking a little bit earlier about kind of the media spin, right, and how the media will take a bit of news that's positive and just somehow cast that negative light on it. So when we had that news of BlackBerry doing some layoffs, right, it was 2,000, then it was actually like 200, or 150 or whatever the case may be. BlackBerry at least is playing smart in putting news out there to kind of counteract the reactions that are going to be created, right? So we had some news of BlackBerry hosting a networking event seeking new employees at all levels over in the San Francisco area. So again, creating that kind of news is positive to kind of counterbalance the negatives, right? And I think they've got a much better control over that perception now than they did. We talked about BB fact checks and things like that. Sometimes coming off a little bit too defensive, right? And this is a better way to do that, right? Just create positive press to kind of counterbalance and let people make their own assumptions and opinions from there. Specifically on this hosting and networking event, did you guys happen to look at any of the job listings or find any interest there for what BlackBerry was kind of looking for?
Yeah, I mean, when I went through it all, it was rather interesting to go ahead and see that they were actually like looking for all points of hirees. It was, I think the majority of the stuff was, not exactly senior level, but going through it, there was a lot of stuff that was, high end, basically executive managers and stuff like that. And as we know, BlackBerry has laid off a lot of those higher level executives in the past. So it was interesting for me to go ahead and see that they were basically going ahead and pushing forward with, the majority of the enterprise products. But the global sales and marketing team, that was interesting as well, because obviously if you want to go ahead and get people onto your services, you need to have global sales and you need to have marketing. So it's one of those things where I can look at it, they're like looking for senior enterprise account managers and channel account managers and territory account managers. And, those are all things that we basically have blasted BlackBerry in the past for, not having in place, or not having the right people in place, because we've all seen some comments come from some of the territory managers that was totally opposite of what the home team was actually trying to convey. So
Yep.
It's interesting to see them go ahead and have those positions available. I guess the key thing for me that I got out of it would be like on the enterprise product side. They're looking for like system software engineers, senior software test engineers, user experience designers, senior SQL server engineers, basically and everything that they need to go ahead and put some serious software products together. And that to me signifies that that there's more coming. They're not just going to go ahead and deal with like Bez as it is today. They're not just going to like fold good technologies into all of the Bez stuff. They're looking to go ahead and expand upon those things. Like, you don't hire software engineers to basically sit around and do nothing. You hire them to go ahead and create software. So
we're not seeing any hardware designers or senior. Like it's all software, server engineers, security analysts. Like you kind of get a sense of what BlackBerry is focusing on right now.
Totally.
As well, you got to think about the cost of some of those tenured managers and just needing new blood, right? If you really want to change the company culture, you gotta, get rid of some of the company, right? So, it's kind of like a blood transfusion, right? You got to take the old blood out, put the new blood in, and in doing so, they really are redefining BlackBerry for a new age of the company, right? It's almost like the company isn't BlackBerry anymore. It's something else, It's like we had this transition of RIM to BlackBerry, where there was still, a very, coincided hardware focus, and it's almost like the company is a little bit different now. And they're obviously using the BlackBerry name and milking it for all it's worth on the security side of the perception, but it just feels like a different company today. With John Chen and the software focus, it really just feels like just a different player in a totally different game. And I honestly think it's going to be more lasting for them, because now they have a much kind of farther runway, so to speak, that they can kind of coast through as they head to some more of their solutions. And they're still working that M&A strategy as well with the mergers, acquisitions. We look here, they recently acquired UK-based Encryption Limited, basically doing security consultancy, doing forensics on the security side, looking at security systems and seeing where are the vulnerabilities and things like that, and consulting larger, SMBs and things like that, to actually, get their security standards up so they can defend against costly kind of hacks and things of that nature. Did you guys dig in on that acquisition? Because they actually launched a new kind of service. If any of you guys want to talk about that a little bit, because I kind of glossed over some of that.
Yeah, they launched basically the cybersecurity service, which creates an opportunity for them to go ahead and offer essentially their expertise to everybody else who is looking to be able to go ahead and add some security layers directly to their servers or to their employee levels, whatever the case may be in that scenario. I didn't dig too deep into it, but I may be wrong, but I always thought BlackBerry offered this service to other people already.
I totally agree. I thought they did this to kind of upsell on Bez, right?
Yeah.
It's like we'll go in, we'll look at your system and see like what kind of Bez solution will work best for you.
Like I was totally under the impression that they had launched something like this a few years back that was not identical, like it wasn't called like professional cybersecurity services or anything like that, but it was something that they were basically offering to any organizations who wanted to go ahead and take advantage of it. So maybe it's an offshoot or a hardening of that offering itself. I couldn't find any actual like information about it being referred to something else at an earlier point in time, but I was always under the impression that they offered these services directly to people. But maybe it is, like you said, maybe it was only directly to Bez customers or upselling those
potential Bez customers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it just speaks to the change in focus of the company, right? It's BlackBerry devices, Bez, now it's iPhone, Android, and even just other connected devices, your laptops, your computers, your entire data infrastructure. So really, it bolsters kind of BlackBerry walking the walk in terms of their security prowess, right? It's like now we sell that to you. If that's all you want from us, if you don't want our software, if you don't want our hardware, you can still get our security knowledge. They are really kind of stretching themselves here and offering something to everybody at kind of every level. So really interesting that they'd make a small acquisition like that, a very targeted one to kind of bolster their overall secure communications platform. Alex, relative to this Encryption Limited acquisition, do you think that this has, like, is it a big enough kind of market for them to kind of go after, or is it as Blaze said, kind of part of what they already did, kind of serving the people they're already serving in a different way, or do you think there's a kind of a broader potential for them to hit more customers?
I think what you guys are talking about, that it is similar to what they already had, and obviously there might be a very specific reason why they made the acquisition, and maybe it's just a very specific part where maybe their current services didn't offer solutions that well for it. Like, I don't really know enough about all of that. I think they're gonna just continue making various acquisitions, just small ones here and there, for anything that will push forward their vision at the moment, which is definitely security, encryption, and just they want to stand out as that company that is focusing on it. So even just the fact that they make an acquisition and someone talks about it, it's like, well, hey, they're still acquiring people and they're still focusing on security. It's almost just like another talking point, like what we talked about, rather than, you know, going to Mobile World Congress or whatever and talking about stuff. It's, you get this little thing going on and people discuss it, and it just shows BlackBerry is still relevant. They're not just there dying. It's when a company makes acquisitions, that's normally like a health sign. Like, you guys are still making acquisitions, you guys still have money. So
yeah, but because it's BlackBerry, everybody's like, eh.
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's like, I thought BlackBerry already had encryption. Wait a minute. You know, it's a funny kind of place for BlackBerry, because if we look at the acquisitions, they've all been vertical ones, right? That integrated into kind of the horizontal secure platform that they wanted, but each of them builds on a new vertical for them, right? Like virtual SIMs, SecuSmart, you know, all of it has its own kind of market focus, but it all kind of falls under one fold as well. So it is interesting to see them kind of heading this route with their services, right? It's not just software anymore for them either, right? It's literally consultancy. It's their expertise and their knowledge that they're selling, not just the knowledge and expertise behind a software solution, right? They're really kind of expanding themselves in a really interesting way. And I want to see kind of what other acquisitions come from them, because if they continue this kind of trajectory, they're really going to be branching out into these verticals that potentially have a lot of business potential for them in years to come, right? Cybersecurity consultancy is only going to become more relevant as we head into this mobile connected world, you know?
That's basically what I was going to say next, is that it's kind of like EMM and MDM when it was sort of taking off and exploding, and there was like 10,000 companies that BlackBerry had to go ahead and compete against. You know, right now the cybersecurity consultancy business is huge because of all of the recent hackings, and essentially that was part of the actual announcement itself. Like, you know, the too long didn't read it of it all is that these things are going to continue to get worse. You need to come to the people who understand these problems to be able to go ahead and sort them out for you. So, you know, BlackBerry is putting themselves in a unique position to be able to go ahead and be a leader in that category as well. Much like they did with MDM and EMM at that point. Like, you know, they basically bought out one of their largest competitors, even though, you know, there was a ton of competition in the actual market. They bought out one of their biggest competitors. So, you know, it seems as though that the cybersecurity consultancy business is essentially one of those things that's just going to get more fierce as it goes on because of the situation in the world that we live in. So I think in this particular respect, BlackBerry set themselves up pretty good to not, I don't want to say get in there early, because cybersecurity consultancy isn't exactly something new, but they are on the ground level and they have that history that sort of resonates with the people in that market. So, you know, it seems to me as though it was a great acquisition to be able to go ahead and expand on that. Like, again, I don't necessarily know too much about encryption, the company itself, based on the fact that they were a smaller organization, but the fact that BlackBerry acquired them and is moving into this, it seems like, you know, they're getting in at the right time to be able to go ahead and offer these sort of solutions. And again, you know, they're relying on some of the known history of BlackBerry security to be able to go ahead and offer these solutions the way that they are.
It's definitely kind of interesting when we think about the geography of everything. We heard about a secure data center in Canada, right, that was going to service the UK, and now we see them make an acquisition in the UK, as if they're, again, kind of bolstering a bigger kind of focus that I don't think a lot of us, or even, you know, the market and shareholders are really looking at. Because I do think they have a strategy here. I don't see all the pieces personally.
What does BlackBerry know that we don't know?
Right. It's like, I feel like they're either going to get closer with the governments in that region and are really looking to kind of expand the footprint, and then maybe hopefully that cascades into other areas. But specific to Encryption Limited, they were focused on IT security and forensic services, which, again, IT security, something BlackBerry definitely did. The forensic services side of things is pretty interesting because it, again, expands the focus of what they're able to do. They offer training. They offer different services about understanding, penetration testing, the essentials for different certifications and things like that. And those forensic services that you can do So if you have a suspect incident, like, okay, we might have had a security breach, let's go to BlackBerry, maybe they can help us, narrow it down as to, did we have a breach, how big was it, how much did it affect us? So it's kind of like before, during, and after support for that type of thing. Whereas some of the consultancy they might have been doing earlier was kind of like all before, right? We're just trying to get ahead of the brawl and get you a service that will protect you. So again, really interesting that they're expanding on these different areas, and a very small acquisition from them, but I think it will have a pretty big impact on some of their their revenue streams here to come in the future. I definitely think this kind of acquisition is one you don't want to just kind of like just write off, right? I really think it has a lot of value for BlackBerry in these years to come, because this type of stuff is only going to become more prevalent. I mean, the FBI case, I mean, all that stuff just kind of escalates the entire conversation. I wanted to transition here as we close out, our latter half of this podcast to some of our Patreon questions. Our patron supporters are awesome. They help support the continued run of this podcast. So kudos to them for continuing their support. We've got 2 different questions, and Blaze would probably be best to speak on one, and maybe Alex and I can take up on the other. This one is from Jeremy. He asks, in the Verizon Priv waiting room forum, a user purchased a Priv from BlackBerry and has it working. Can you explain how this is possible to those who aren't as tech savvy in regards to the spectrum and wireless bands? And Alex, this conversation almost plays into you trying to get your passport on Verizon too. So is it a fluke? Did someone mess up? Is the guy lying? I mean, Priv from Shop BlackBerry working on Verizon, how does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Alex.
Did it have the right bands? I thought it didn't. I know it doesn't have the CDMA band, obviously, but did it even have the Verizon network bands?
I can't recall if it had the actual Verizon bands, but I do know that, this individual in the forums isn't exactly the only one. Russell on Android Central has his Priv working essentially on Verizon as well. I mean, the only thing that becomes it becomes problematic at that point in time is when you actually step outside of Verizon coverage. I don't know what happens at that point in time because I don't have a Verizon device to test it, and I'm assuming, that the majority of the people that are loading up a Priv on Verizon are well within Verizon coverage. Obviously, they're not going to buy it. And it remains the same. Like, if you buy this device and it works on Verizon and it works within your area, and essentially you don't go outside of that area, go for it. But I can't.
Why?
I can't suggest people to go out and buy a BlackBerry device, knowing that it may possibly not work when you get outside of Verizon coverage, right?
Hold on, okay, why even think about that? If you really want a phone that bad, okay, you're probably on Verizon because you want the coverage, and Verizon is great with coverage. AT&T is fine as well. So the thing is, if you're like, well, I want a Priv so bad, but I want to stay on Verizon for the coverage, well, getting a non-Verizon Priv and using it on Verizon, you're not going to have good coverage. You're literally giving up the one thing that you're paying more money for. So just go over to AT&T. It doesn't even make sense at that point. Hell, T-Mobile will probably be better than you, or better for you than Verizon would be if you're trying to do that whole thing with the Priv. I don't understand. I guess maybe if you're stuck on a contract or something ridiculous, but it just wait another few weeks or whatever is going on if it's really that big of a deal.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why I haven't exactly gone ahead and fully endorsed Russell's posts about using devices that aren't really meant for Verizon on Verizon, especially when it comes to the Priv, because I don't know how it handles these things outside of Verizon coverage. I don't want anybody to be stranded out there without the capability to use their phone. So, Russell on Android Central, he's absolutely right. It does work when it's within Verizon coverage, and the individual in the forums, he's right too. He's not BSing anybody. It does work. As we all know, when you put another SIM card in, it will boot up with the Verizon screen. It will come on, and it will tell you that it's connected and everything. However, I'm just not comfortable with giving that recommendation, because I don't want to be the one who is responsible for somebody not being able to call 911 or something like that.
Yeah.
Curse you, Blaze!
Right? I'm suing you.
Angry
told me
emails.
I use my phone.
That is not a post on Crackberry or BerryFlow, so leave it at that. Jeremy, I hope that answers your question. Buyer beware. To that degree, we definitely want to make sure you're getting a device that fully is supported by your carrier and, of course, the OEM. So I would wait it out. I think the wait will be worth it. I really do. If they are coming together to bring Verizon on board as a partner, I think it will be worth the wait to go ahead and kind of wait it out, save your money, save your pennies, and make that purchase when it's right to make that. Our second question here, and I'll kind of toss this one toward Alex's direction, is so WhatsApp support, this one is from Mike, one of our patrons. So WhatsApp support will be ending at the end of 2016. Given that BlackBerry's stated commitment to BlackBerry 10 effectively ends at the same time, I'm wondering if BlackBerry's lack of solid plan is forcing developers to look elsewhere. Does this apply to their hardware division as a whole, with Chen giving it depends as an outlook? Will developers hold off integrating products into the hub, in lieu of Android?
I feel like
it's almost like BlackBerry's kind of turned them away, like kind of well, look this way now,
No, I feel like this has been something that's been going on for so long now, and when you see a platform like WhatsApp make the decision, we're ending support, I think that's kind of a big deal in the sense of, how much time really went into maintaining the WhatsApp app for BlackBerry 10. And I really can't imagine it would be like that much consistent work going on, or even if it was one developer or whatever. So the fact that they made that decision, it's definitely not a good sign for BlackBerry 10. And then looking at other developers, how they would look at it, it's also not a good sign for that. But it's also something like the writing has been on the wall for like a while, so I don't really feel like this is new information or a shock. I think it's just kind of like, yeah, well, I guess we were expecting something like this to happen. And as BlackBerry 10, the market share of that just goes lower and lower. It just, we know why WhatsApp is focusing on sheer numbers. Like WhatsApp is literally that one app specifically that will not care about a platform that has no numbers. So it just makes sense why they're doing it. I'm sure some people can still make some all right money on BlackBerry 10, but you have to have a very good idea, and I don't know. I don't really know. There's not too much to say about it.
BlackBerry has to figure out how to pay the developers first.
There's that as well.
And the situation, I mean, as soon as BlackBerry started telling people to put their apps into Android or on Google Play or into the Amazon App Store, I mean, that had to go ahead and at least turn some developers' stomach from the platform. Like, some people are going to look at it like, okay, BlackBerry's expanding their horizons, and BlackBerry 10 runs Android apps to a certain extent, and that's fine if you look at it that way. But at the same time, you have to look at the other side of the equation and realize that there's people out there that are going to look at that situation and be like, oh, BlackBerry 10 is pretty much done. Like, that's how they're going to go ahead and look at it. And from that point on, they gave up on BlackBerry 10, like in terms of development and stuff like that. They just moved on from it, which is unfortunate because the platform is awesome to build on when you actually have something cool that you can implement and make use of. But at the same time, WhatsApp, I mean, realistically, WhatsApp gave up support on BlackBerry 10 a long time ago when you really think about it, because even when you email WhatsApp customer care right now, they basically tell you that WhatsApp isn't supported on BlackBerry 10. Like, WhatsApp customer care will not help you with the WhatsApp BlackBerry 10 app right now, like even before this announcement. They basically just ignored it and said that they don't support it. So yes, the app existed, but WhatsApp itself would not provide any actual help for the application if you ran into any issues or anything like that. So this basically means that they're going all in with the discontinuation of the support. The app is no longer going to be updated. In addition to the customer service aspect of it, where they would already no longer help you with the app anyways. Like, there's countless numbers of form threads on Crackberry where people have emailed WhatsApp customer care, and customer care basically said, we don't support that app. And people are like, well, why do you have the app? Like, is WhatsApp canceling support? Well, technically, they kind of already canceled support because they won't help you with it. So, continue on using the app while it exists, and I don't know what you're going to do after that. I mean, you might be able to use the Android application, but at the same time, notifications aren't going to work properly, and
Yeah.
the Android runtime is getting a little close to death, anyways, considering the amount of API levels it's out of.
Even though it just recently got updated.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, I'm pretty sure I said it months ago, like there's more and more apps that are essentially just going to stop working on the Android runtime because of the sheer fact that it's based on Jelly Bean. And
the apps will continue to grow, but the runtime will stay where it's at,
Yeah, exactly. And I don't foresee BlackBerry updating that Android runtime to, the next level of APIs that are available on Android. It's just not going to happen.
Right. They just launched an Android device, so that's the easier thing to do at this point, right? And it's honestly probably the smarter thing to do. As good as BlackBerry 10 is, and we all love BlackBerry 10, it bothers me to a degree that there is a lack of support, but we still have 2 more updates coming, right? So it's not like it's totally going to be dead. The devices will continue to get more security clearance, and they will serve that niche that they are tailored for. It's now about, again, the sustaining of that hardware business, and the move to Android at this point is probably the very best move they could have done to try to save and reclaim that little bit of that hardware prowess they had, because they still make damn good phones. I mean, all of us using Priv love it, It's a solid device, and it gets a lot done. I know Alex is using that keyboard more and more and more because it's easy, and it keeps him from, silly typos that he doesn't want with his clientele. And he likes being able to flick up haha into an emoji, right? That's always fun.
Yeah, it is. It's useful.
Very. Fire. And then just there it goes, right? So
Alex doesn't type anymore. He just flicks up emojis at everyone.
I do use a lot of emojis, I'm not going to lie.
He makes us translate, like, what is Alex saying right now?
He's an emoji translator.
Boy.
So to our patrons who submitted those questions, we really do appreciate, Mike and Jeremy, those little bits of, the discussion from you guys, because it does help us focus the conversation. Verizon Priv, we are still kind of waiting on that. What does WhatsApp support effectively? Is that them responding to BlackBerry? No, I think they're responding to their own market needs. I think lumping BlackBerry 10 and Symbian in the same boat is kind of offensive. but at the same point, that just proves that there's still people using Symbian. There's still people using whatever, Bada, whatever the heck, And I think the market is small, but those loyal users are still about those apps, right? They're still about those platforms, and those users are still going to be there. Support in the future may end, but the app will probably stay working for quite some time. Maybe not in a full form, right? So we're still going to have we have months and months and months of more support of the application and infrastructure still being there. But for WhatsApp, as they transition forward, they're looking at BlackBerry and they're like, okay, well, BlackBerry's launching Android devices, so what's really the purpose of us staying on BlackBerry 10 to serve a market that is potentially shrinking, right?
It does create an opportunity, though, if any developers are willing to go ahead and create a BlackBerry 10 app, start pulling apart WhatsApp and see how it works. Because once that WhatsApp disappears, there's going to be BlackBerry 10 users who want to get WhatsApp back. So Memory's out there right now, like scouring through some code on WhatsApp. We're looking to build the next WhatsApp app.
Oh boy.
What's 10? What's 10?
Oh my god. There's going to be some lawsuits.
I would hope not. So that's all we have for our discussion today. I really appreciate the time with you gentlemen. Always good to kind of digest the week's worth of news. Mobile World Congress was exciting. I mean, BlackBerry is continuing to show that they're advancing, not in areas of the business that are necessarily real sexy, right? But they are still advancing on making the business stronger, bringing in new revenue streams, and continuing to innovate on those key software areas. So to our patron supporters and to everyone listening, thank you so much for continuing to watch. We will be on next week, maybe. We're feeling that out. We got to see how much news we really have. I know Blaze will be traveling. I would love to be traveling personally. Alex never leaves his room. He was literally making his bed prior to the podcast. So he did it in the weirdest way. If only you guys could see. But we're gonna hop on our after show and we're gonna talk a little bit about Torsten Hines, and I will leave it at that.
Alex grew up yesterday. He became a year older.
Oh, that's true.
No.
Yeah.
He's a man,
buddy.
now.
He's finally 18, guys, so he's a legal adult now. No, just kidding. Alex, how old did you turn?
I turned 24, and speaking of that, I just did the ShareCare app, and you can get like a real age by answering a bunch of questions and stuff, and it says that I am 24.7 years old, so I'm very close to my actual age. So that's interesting. No,
I don't know, dude. There's some photos on Facebook that would, tear that ranking down. I saw you in a shaving cream bra. I'm just saying.
That's such an old picture, man. That was for a contest. Well, not a contest.
Get off the kid's Facebook.
I was gonna post it to Twitter, but I was like, no, that's mean. That's like super hardcore mean. So
that's something I would do for sure. Happy birthday! I hate you. No, I'm glad you did have a good birthday, Alex. And Alex is the kind of guy who on his birthday works. He never stops, and he's here on the podcast, and he will continue to keep kicking butt and taking names as he grows his business. So if you have any web design needs, hit up Alex. Online marketing, SEO. Alex is your guy. That's who I'm using right now for sure. He is the only reason BerryFlow is still not on GoDaddy or whoever we were on before. Yeah. HostGator. Oh, anyway, gentlemen, we'll hop on our short after show. We'll laugh about Torsten Hines a little bit, and we'll get on with our lives. Everyone who has been watching and continuing to support, we will see you guys in a future episode. Take care. This has been Upstream, number 89. Peace.
Later.
Later.